Mother Knows Death, starring Nicole and Jemmy and Maria QK.
Hi everyone, welcome to Mother Knows Death. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about police who are waiting for a man to poop out evidence of a major crime, a couple who decided to leave their child alone to go on a ride at Disneyland, a superglue prank gone wrong, and homemade sex toys. So let's get started with celebrity news.
All right, David Krumholtz, he is most well known for being in the Santa Claus movies, 10 Things I Hate About You, and most recently Oppenheimer.
Bernard.
Bernard. So Bernard is claiming that he almost died after a bad reaction from smoking weed.
Okay, so this is called Cannabinoid Hyperemesis syndrome. Have you ever heard of this?
No, and I would never be able to pronounce something like that.
Hyperemesis just means like throwing up a lot. It's not.
Yeah. Okay.
It's nothing. It's nothing crazy. So I think I had this once, honestly. It happens if you, they say it most commonly happens if you smoke weed a lot. And I had a part of my life that I was smoking weed like every day there for a while.
Yeah.
And so it's like a really weird phenomenon, and they say it's rare, although I don't think it's as rare as they say it is, because it's happening more and more and more, obviously, like the stronger the weed that comes out. But they say, you know, when you smoke weed, you have the THC molecules bind to your brain, and that's what makes you get high, right? Well, the effect that usually has on the brain actually is usually anti-nausea. That's why they give weed to people who have cancer and are undergoing chemotherapy, because it helps with that. But they're saying in some people who smoke a lot of weed, it just messes up those receptors so bad, and the brain may stop working in that respect, and it just causes nausea and repeated vomiting. It really sounds, you're just like, okay, whatever, but like, no, it's really, really bad. It could cause like severe dehydration, hospitalization. And do you want to hear the weirdest part of this? What makes you feel better?
What?
Is if you take a hot bath and it makes the symptoms go away, or a hot shower.
Weird.
It's really weird. And they don't have an exact test to say like, hey, you're having this, but that's one of the things they say. If you're having this and then you take a hot shower and it makes it go away, then you more than likely have this.
Yeah, and he did say in an interview from a couple months back that he said he spent 10 hours at a time in hot baths to relieve the symptoms because that's how bad they were. And he had lost 100 pounds.
I guess he had 100 pounds to lose.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I don't really know. I haven't been following him. I know him as Bernard, and then I saw him recently in Oppenheimer, but it seems like this was all going down when he was in the middle of filming that movie.
I was just talking to the kids about this morning, because they were talking about that drink. You know, they watch their YouTube videos and they tell me all this stuff that they think I don't know about. This drink, this drink that got banned from Panera. We talked about it on one of our first episodes.
The charged lemonade.
The charged lemonade. And I was trying to explain to them how, in general, there's caffeine in the tea that we drink, and you get bubble tea, there's caffeine in it, right? But it's and coffee. And in general, that's usually safe for most people. But then there's these other products that are coming in, which, because companies find the loophole, like caffeine's legal, so we're just going to like make it the highest number possible. And that's what they're doing. And then all of these kids, we were talking about this recently, that I had come across this written paper about all of these case studies of kids that were going in with heart failure and even death in cases, and a lot of them were consuming all of these energy drinks,
because some these companies are making it like cocaine in a can.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is the same exact thing is being done with weed, and it's just being made at these levels that, like, it's not, oh, this person grows it and is smoking it. It's just like these genetically modified crazy strains with these high levels of THC and everything. So of course, like all emergency room doctors are saying that they're seeing more cases of this. I think that enough information is coming out right now to sit there and say that all weed that's available in the United States right now is safe is just completely not correct. you have cases of this where this guy survived it, but I mean, you could, in theory, die from this from severe dehydration. And really, the only cure for this cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome is that you stop smoking weed. And that's a really important thing that people need to know. Like, once you stop doing it, it'll stop happening. But we've had cases of people with psychosis, underlying psychological conditions that people don't know about getting worse because of using these higher levels of THC and everything. So these stories are important to tell because so many, I mean, everyone smokes weed. I smell it all day long everywhere. So, which is alarming because I usually smell it when I'm in the car picking my kids up from school, which means that people are smoking it in their cars because I'm on a highway.
Well, I think
it's fucking ridiculous.
there's just this false sense of security with it that it's this like ultra safe thing, and it's just, you know, it has dangers just like alcohol and any other drug would as well.
And I mean, I think it's safe to say that it probably was a more safer thing back in the day, and now it's like, okay, it's the same with. It's scary too because I was trying to get one of the drinks that Lulu likes at Starbucks has like it's one of those caffeine drinks. I didn't even know it. It's just called a refresher. How would I even know it?
Yeah.
I looked at, now I'm like having to look at the ingredients of things to see. So it's just, and it's being like slipped into regular life. I mean, do you think the word refresher means that there's caffeine in something?
Their refreshers have always had caffeine though. That's not surprising
No,
to me.
I know, but like that, like I don't get them though. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it just, to me, like if it said energy charger, I'd be like, okay, let me see what's in this. But
I guess you're getting it at an establishment where all of the other drinks are caffeinated, so that's probably why you should look into it, because Wawa has drinks too that aren't called coffee or tea or obvious caffeinated things, but they have coffee. Like the lemonade at Panera was called charged lemonade. Would you assume the charge mean it had that much caffeine in it?
yeah, I mean, I guess that's the thing, because even with Starbucks, you know, even though the things have caffeine in it, like if my kid had matcha, I wouldn't be crazy about that. But if it's 3 times the amount, that's when I start to worry. So,
But you could argue that matcha has just as much caffeine as coffee. Like you think that like black tea has just as much caffeine as coffee, and I just do not think so. I do not feel the effects the same way. I think it's proven that it's not as much, but you feel the effects of it stronger.
well, there are certain teas that have just as much caffeine as coffee in it, but these are just like, it's and like we're getting off topic. It's weed, whatever. It's still just, you just have to be careful and just don't assume like that. That's going away finally, because there was like this hardcore movement of like it's safe, and now all this shit's coming out, obviously. So thank God for that.
Yeah, well, thank God he was filming Oppenheimer, because he said it was like his dream role, and this was all going down during that, and it almost prevented him from being in the movie, so it just like finally pushed him to quit. So at least that's good, you know. And he was pretty good in that movie, so
I didn't even see it yet.
it's really good. You should watch it.
Okay, I will. All right, true crime. This is a doozy.
In Florida, this guy goes to Tiffany's and acts like he's shopping for this Orlando Magic player. So they bring him to this room, probably with their finest selection of jewels. And of course, the second he sees them, he steals 2 pair of earrings and runs out the door. So the earrings are worth approximately $769,000. Cops pull him over later down the road. They can't find the earrings anywhere because he swallowed them.
Well, this is really the best part of the story. The cops couldn't find the earrings, and they were able to arrest him because he was trying to run away from an officer, but they weren't able to charge him for theft because they didn't have the jewels. This fucking moron goes into jail and says to one of the staff members, "What am I going to get charged with? What's in my stomach?"
What
Who
an
does
idiot.
that?
First of
What
all,
a moron.
First of all, he only got booked for resisting arrest, so I'm pretty sure like they couldn't arrest him for the theft. So
what a moron. So
if he just shut
then
his
they're
mouth,
so then they're like, "What did you just say?" And they give him a scan, and then they see the foreign objects in the scan. Okay, like then he's overheard by a trooper saying, "I should have just thrown them out the window." No, yeah, you should have. Like, you could have went through your own shit and got rid of them. Nobody's checking your shit when you're in prison, right? They're not like going through your turds in the toilet. So, what a fucking moron.
He is really stupid, but then again, when you see his rap sheet, he has 48 outstanding warrants in Colorado. He was charged with another robbery at a different Tiffany's in Texas a couple years ago. What is
Well,
this guy doing?
I don't know, but he's not good at it. Like,
He's not good at it. And they're like, now we have to wait for you to poop them out.
I guess he would have. So if he got arrested, I guess they would have eventually seen that he's had these warrants and they would have been able to keep him.
Yeah. But
'Cause
he
if he just
probably
got-
still could have kept his mouth shut, shit him out, and then sold them.
Well, if he shit him out in jail, though, what was he going to do with them?
I don't know.
That's what I'm
just
saying. Like, I mean, really, like, he might as well have just flushed them down the toilet at least. But at least, I mean, he wouldn't have had them, but at least he wouldn't have got charged with grand theft. And, like, let's go back to the beginning of the story. What fucking moron Tiffany employee bought this story?
Yeah.
Really, think about it. This guy is a multiple time criminal, 48 outstanding warrants, and robbed a Tiffany's before. And he's pretending to be a representative for an Orlando Magic player, and you just like believe him at his word and let him have access to that.
Furthermore, if you have this jewelry that is, each set of earrings was worth over a couple $100,000 each, so you would think that they are in a separate room that has more security, so in the event when you present them to the person, they can't just so easily run out of the store with them.
Do you think that the employee was like involved somehow, or
I just
could that
think
be a
any more
possibility?
people are so fucking stupid that like this really could have just happened, or yeah, the employee could have been involved.
Because if this is the case, I just, there's something not right about this, because I'm sure that something like this has happened multiple times, that people go in and try to pretend like they're somebody. You don't have to have any kind of credentials. Maybe we should go next week and say that we're Bryce Harper's representative and we're going to go like, come on. It just sounds silly, like that they would even allow it.
The thing is,
Do
I guess
Orlando
it's like,
Magic players make that much money that they could be buying a $600,000 pair of earrings?
I mean, they work in the NBA. Yeah, they make a lot of money.
Do they though?
It doesn't
I
matter
thought
if the
nobody
team is good.
watched NBA games anymore.
You're mistaken. Just because the Sixers absolutely are blowing
Oh,
it
so
doesn't
it's
mean...
just so it's just specific to Sixers that people don't go to the games.
The Sixers have balls asking for their own stadium when their tickets right now are for sale for $4. Like, get a life. No, there is definitely a big market for basketball. I just don't think we see it in particular because our team really sucks right now. But yeah, I think about this. You can't go into Tiffany's and they can't pretty woman you essentially because of the way you look or anything. Like if you and I went in there and you were like, I want to see $100,000 pair of earrings, they can't look at you and be like, you're poor, because we might be billionaires for all they know. Look how current billionaires dress. They dress like shit. They're always wearing like stained white t-shirts and sweatpants. So you can't really judge somebody based on that. But at the same time, if you're going to be showing somebody something that valuable, there has to be an extra step of security involved, meaning like you go in a special room or like a safe in the back or something, and
They don't have like armed security guards there.
Most
like
Tiffany's
a bank
have security guards. That's why I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't understand how this happened.
And now this has happened twice, because this is the second time this guy's doing this. Okay, something just doesn't seem right. I don't know.
If you are even going to a designer store in the King of Prussia Mall, they have security at the
I know,
door.
right? I'm like, when you go in Gucci, they're like, what are your intentions here?
Yeah.
You know, like,
and Gucci,
I don't know. I just wanted to try on sunglasses. I'm sorry.
And Gucci certainly has had things for sale that are in the $100,000 range, but not at the King of Prussia Mall. And like, you wouldn't just be able to run out the door with it.
Yeah, I don't know. Something sounds a little shady with this.
It really does. All right, in Disneyland, this mom is sitting with her kids outside the Guardians of the Galaxy ride, and then she notices this stroller is just like parked behind this wall with a blanket over top of it. And then as she's looking at it, she sees that the blanket on top of it moves and realizes there is a child in there just left unattended, because it turns out his parents just parked him over to the side, went on the ride.
You know, I was thinking about this when I read this story. There's either parents like me who want to go accompany my 29-year-old daughter to the bathroom because I'm afraid she's going to get kidnapped. Or it's like the complete opposite extreme where people are just like, you know what? I want to go on a ride. Disney World's kind of safe. I'm just going to stick my kid over here and put a blanket over them and like let them take a nap while we're on this ride. It's like there's no in between. It's just like either extreme. I just can't fucking believe this.
I can't either, but I'm kind of roping it in with the parents that have children that are, under 10 years old and they go to Disney World by themselves and not bring their kids. I think it's the same weird selfish thing. Like the kid probably didn't fit the height requirements for this ride. And they were just like, this isn't our problem. We're just going to stick it in the corner.
But like Disney is the best place to go for circumstances like this because they will let you and your kids stand in line and then they'll let the husband go on the ride, get off. The wife go on the ride and get off, and they'll let you like you don't have to go back in line. They let you stand there and wait.
I know.
They're like very accommodating to people that have children. So it's just because they wanted to go on together that they left the kid alone. And I'm like wondering about this. I know that that this woman, of course, she took a video of it and posted it on TikTok, which is kind of amazing, honestly. But she went and got a cast member who went over and saw that there was a kid there, and then they got security and went and got one of the parents off the ride, at least one of them. But like, is that the end of the story? Because I feel like that's kind of alarming. This isn't like, oh, you better get off the ride and go get your kid. Like, no, I would call the fucking police. That's weird.
Yeah, you can't just hide your kid behind a wall. First of all, it is still out in the open. It's not like it's like totally secluded.
It's just multiple different reasons. Like, let's say the kid somehow got out and just wandered off and went into one of the little waterways they have there. Number two, let's say somebody kidnapped the kid, just took the stroller. 3, the kid's out in the sun in freaking California, like unprotected. I mean, a blanket isn't certainly protecting them from sun damage. It's just like,
I don't think the blanket was there to protect them from sun damage. It was probably to hide the fact the kid was even in the stroller.
It's like, it's really fucked up, honestly. And it's just a very weird situation.
Just how stupid are you to do something like that?
The weirdest part is that Disney has a policy that says that, now this is in writing for their policy. All children must be supervised at all times under the age of 7 and must be accompanied by a person 14 or older. Like, why does that have to be in writing? Because they've had this happen before, right?
I'm sure this happens.
Why does an adult that has a child need to be told that their child needs to be monitored under the age of 7?
Do you know how often I see children under 5 years old just roaming around in the mall, on the boardwalk, at a park, no parent in sight?
Yeah, I saw kids when we were driving home from the other day with the kids, picking the kids up from school. There were kids that were very little, like 7 years old, and I guess they were going to school or going to a bus stop. I don't know where they were going, but they were crossing Route 130 by themselves. And I was like, the whole time, I almost wanted to get out and be like, let me walk across with you right now, because that road is infamously known for pedestrian accidents and deaths. But I'm thinking, like, how are these little kids crossing this highway right now and there's no adult anywhere? I don't know. Like I said, there's no in between with me.
Well, my husband too is always like, mind your business. And it's like one of those, like they always say, like, when you're a woman, you have maternal instincts before you have a baby, and a man like needs to be holding the baby when they feel their paternal instincts. I'm like, if you had the same instincts I have right now, you'd understand why this is a problem.
Yeah.
But he's just like, mind your business.
Yeah, and that lady that posted that video on TikTok got like 1 million views on that video, obviously, because most people are repulsed by that thought. It's just, and it's not like, what are you thinking? It's kind of like, well, when else are you not attending to your child? When else are you leaving them alone?
You know how they said with DUIs, like somebody probably drives drunk 80 times before they're caught? I feel like it's kind of the same principle. It's just the first time they were caught.
Let me say this, though. Guardian of the Galaxy is a good ride.
It is a really good ride. It's one of the best rides.
Do you think it's, because I didn't even know that they had that. Oh, they didn't have that at the park we went at Disneyland, right?
It was on the other side. I think we all decided we picked the wrong side. Because we went in the classic Disneyland, not the Adventureland side.
I don't really understand. Is it like another park, like Epcot or something?
Yeah, remember when we went in, we went like left, but you could also go right. There was 2 parks.
But did you have to pay separately for each one?
You could get a park hopper pass to go to the other.
Well, whatever. Like, we didn't go on it when we were in California, but is it the same ride as Epcot and Disney World?
I'd imagine it is. It might have like a slightly different storyline, but I imagine it's the
like
same.
that was a really good ride, so
Yeah.
no, it doesn't justify neglecting your kid, but yeah.
No. This episode is brought to you by The Gross Room.
Guys, so we have last week Bestiality, this week Ruby Frank, if there's no breaking deaths this weekend, and we also have a really bizarre case involving shrapnel. So that is a really crazy case. You have to see the pictures to understand that and read the story because it's really nuts. We also do this game in the Gross Room that's called What Is It Wednesday? And every Wednesday I post 4 photographs. One of them is a fake special effects makeup, and then the other 3 are just injuries that people have gotten, either self-injuries or homicidal injuries. They're not always dead, just inflicted by another, or accidents, and even natural disease too. And you have to guess what caused this person to get this injury. And it's fun. It's not that serious, but we do have prizes. You could win a signed book or some merchandise from the Gross Room. So it's a really fun game that we play every week, and it's fun when people participate, and hilarious at some of the things that people guess as their answer.
Yeah, head over to thegrossroom.com for more info and to sign up.
Okay, let's get started with medical news.
All right, a couple months ago, this couple gave birth to their son. So throughout the pregnancy, they were told that everything was normal. But after the son was delivered, they were really shocked when the baby did not have a right eye and his ear was on his right cheek. What is this condition?
It's called Goldenhar syndrome. I've never heard of it, actually. So it's pretty rare. It's an abnormal development of the eye, ear, and spine, and it generally only impacts one side of the body. It can, however, affect the kidneys, lungs, and nervous system as well. So they were completely unaware of this. I'm not sure did this happen in America? I wasn't really sure if this happened and they had the traditional prenatal scans and the anatomy scan and everything, because I feel, and I'm not really sure, this is something an ultrasound tech might have to tell us, with a routine ultrasound at 20 to 24 weeks for an anatomy scan. Can you see defects of the eye and ears? I feel like it's pretty significant that something should look abnormal. We had this discussion actually in the Gross Room a couple weeks ago. I did a post about 3D ultrasounds, and we were talking about a patient that had a 3D and a 4D ultrasound and had a cleft palate diagnosed with their baby. And really, on one hand, you say, well, what's the point? Like, they can't really do anything about it. The kid's going to come out and whatever. But some of the reasoning behind these scans is not because they can really do anything for the parents. They can't do anything in utero. They can sometimes, but for certain conditions, including this one, I don't think that they would do any kind of surgery in utero. But it is helpful for parents because they could be mentally prepared for this happening. This was this parent's first time having a kid, and they just thought everything was going to be normal, and it wasn't. And it was kind of very shocking and upsetting, and it's not even the kid's appearance that looks unusual, but it's also the kid needed surgery right away as soon as he was born, multiple other surgeries, has a tracheotomy, will have to get surgery to move his ear, will have to get prosthetic eyes for the rest of his life. And if you find this out when you're 6 months into pregnancy, it makes it a little bit easier to process over 3 months and get prepared for how your life is going to change, instead of just 1 second it's fine and the next second it's not fine.
Yeah, I mean, it just sucks. I am curious too if it's detected on normal ultrasound.
He said something that was weird in the post. The dad said that he was so overwhelmed that he went to the toilet.
Oh, to pray.
And I thought that was a weird terminology that doesn't seem like someone that lives in America would say.
Maybe
You would
England.
say went to the bathroom. You don't usually say I went to the toilet. Not that it couldn't be said here. I'm just curious. And listen, like this might be a possibility. Like one of our listeners who does ultrasound might say like we can't see everything. I just think it's kind of, if you can't see that there's an eye missing and that the ear is at a different location, I feel like the ultrasound's sensitive enough to pick up certain things like that. So I don't know. I mean, let's say for example, when I was pregnant with you, like I had an ultrasound very early on, and that was it, because there was no such thing as 3D and 4D ultrasounds. But now I think they do anatomy scans. It's just more common nowadays, and I don't know if that's something that's done everywhere.
Yeah, like when you're pregnant, do you have to get all those scans, or they just recommend it? Because what
Well,
if they
you don't
didn't
have to
want
go to
them?
the doctor once if you don't want to. Like, you don't have to. Like, they're not. Nobody can make you, but you should.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely studies done that all of these complications that happen, and including fetal death, is because of people not having proper prenatal care. So the best thing is for both the mom to walk in and know what's going to happen, and the doctor also knows what's going to happen, because the doctor seemed to be shocked too when this baby was born, and it was like this scramble of, oh my God, like we got to get this kid in surgery right now. And there's a certain part of having children that you just can't predict everything. There's always going to be something that the kid comes out and you're like, oh, surprise or whatever. But we have technology now to pick up a lot of this stuff, so it's kind of curious about it.
Yeah. All right, so this guy was at a family barbecue. He said that he got drunk and fell asleep on a hammock, and he didn't have a shirt on. So while he was asleep, his wife's brother bent over him and put Superglue in his belly button.
This is like kind of a funny story, honestly. It sounds like something like it sounds like a dude's joke. Like you just hear people doing dumb shit like this.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is like
what
why would you
I'm
do
curious.
something
Like,
that?
I mean, listen, like it's like, why would you do something like that? But you see that all the time. Like kids, it's just an immature joke. Kids putting a Sharpie on someone's face while they're sleeping, or whipped cream all over their hands so they wipe it on their eyes when they're sleeping. Like, this is just, people do this stuff. I think what happened afterwards is what's a little crazy.
Yeah, so it was an immature joke, but when he woke up and noticed it was in there, he couldn't get it out. He had to go to the ER. He had over $2,000 in medical bills because of it. And then, the guy was pretty pissed about it. He asked his brother-in-law to pay for the medical bills since he did the prank. And then the brother-in-law said no, so he took him to small claims court, and now there's like a giant riff in the family.
I mean, listen, I think, like, if you wake up and you don't know it and you have glue in your belly button, you're going to be pissed. And the guy kind of created, I mean, after this happened, and I know this wouldn't have happened without the brother-in-law doing this, but like he kind of created his own medical problems. This is not a hospital visit, in my opinion. The super glue in your eye is a hospital visit. Super glue in your belly button is like, no. So he tried to take it out of himself, and he was ripping his skin and couldn't get it out. And then that's when he went to the hospital. But when he went to the hospital, they said they used solvent and ointment, which is acetone, which cost $1, and A&D ointment, which cost $4. And they left with a medical bill of $2,253.
I feel
this
like
is something he could have done himself.
You could have so easily Googled
exactly
any way how to get it out. I don't know, but then yeah, so
like I'm like, you don't have a wife that knows that nail polish remover like will melt this. Like, I just think like if you just pour acetone right on top of it, within 5 minutes it's gonna get all gooey, and just get a paper towel and wipe it out, and then end of story. He wouldn't even have needed ointment because the skin only broke because he was trying to rip it off.
Yeah, and his wife's family thinks he's like completely overreacting, taking the brother-in-law to small claims court. And he did win, by the way, in small claims court, but the brother-in-law has still not paid him. It's just so idiotic. Like,
The whole thing, the whole thing is messed up. But I'm just kind of like, he was playing a joke. I don't know. I don't think he was intentionally like trying to do it, but I guess you could say at the same time, well, why should he have to pay for it if he was just sleeping?
no, I think that I do think that the brother-in-law should have to pay for it or at least give him some money towards it because he put him in that situation. But I just think
Yeah, I
both
might meet
parties are
him
wrong.
halfway and say, like, I'll give you half because I did it, but you're a fucking moron for going to the emergency room for this.
Yeah, exactly. Like both parties are wrong. So I don't know. I think it's ridiculous. And I would argue that this might lead to divorce because how do you get over, as a wife, how do you get over your husband taking your brother to small claims court? What if Gabe took Louis to small claims court over something like this?
Gabe was actually telling me some stuff about some people that he's friends with, that there's like all this craziness in their family like that. And he's like, yeah, their Christmas dinners must be real fun. And I'm like, Jesus. Like, we're pretty lucky in that way that there's like relatively low drama in the family like that.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, it just, I don't know. Like, it would just suck. I'm just thankful that my husband and my brother are friends.
exactly. All right, this 45-year-old woman had a hysterectomy and not long after the surgery had a serious complication. So can you get into more detail about what went on?
All right, so they didn't say why she had a hysterectomy, but she had a laparoscopic hysterectomy. So they go into your belly with the cameras and then some tools to cut, and they kind of snip, snip, snip around your uterus and then pull it out of your vagina. So the top of your vagina has a huge hole in it, and they need to sew it up in order to close it off. And when you get that surgery done, they say that you're supposed to wait 8 to 12 weeks before having sex. I think we had a story in here. It was either in here or in the gross room recently of a woman that was in a car accident and her intestines came through that opening. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I think that was.
I know I definitely posted it in the gross room, but I also think we spoke
We
about it
might
here
have
as
talked
well.
about it on here.
So this woman, I'm not sure exactly what happened, but she had this hysterectomy, and so when this incision that gets sewn up the hole at the top of the vagina, that's now called the vaginal cuff. And when that opens up because it's not healed correctly, because the sutures have somehow ripped apart and the tissue hasn't healed, it's called vaginal dehiscence, vaginal cuff dehiscence. So when that opened up, so that just opened up, and they didn't really say why it opened up, what happened that caused it to open up. But she went to the hospital and she got it fixed. Within a week, now again, once it's fixed, you got to go back to that 8 to 12 weeks. You can't have sex because anything pushing against that, just think about if you had a wound on your knee that was sutured. If you touch it and you don't let it grow together, it's going to constantly be weak and rip apart. So she had sex within 1 week of having this surgery done. Not only did it bust open the sutures again, but to make matters worse, the guy that she was having sex with was wearing a condom, and the condom was missing. Okay? Nobody knows where it's at. They're looking frantically for it, can't find it. She goes to the emergency room and they do a CT scan and they say that she's got fluid in her pelvis. So they did an aspirate to try to get out the fluid and nothing came out. And they're like, you know what? We're just going to do a laparoscopy again just to make sure. So they're going to stick a camera in again and just look around to see what's going on. So essentially what happened was this guy busted through the top of her vagina with his penis and opened up that incision. And then the condom came off inside of that opening, and it was inside of her pelvis. So what looked like it might have been an infection on a CT scan was actually the condom with some infectious fluid around it.
This is just my opinion, but I almost feel like it had to be an assault or something because as a woman, how would you, in just getting this major procedure, how would you possibly even be in the mood to have sex?
Now, I don't think it's a sexual assault at all. Listen, so this is the beauty of the gross room. So in the gross room, I usually put a question at the end just to spark some conversation with the members. And I said, is there anyone here that, or anyone you know or yourself that has had sex when right after either having surgery down there or giving childbirth? Because the same goes for childbirth. It's not as long. I think you're supposed to wait 6 weeks after having childbirth. And within an hour of posting that, we had 4 comments. So that's what we have as of recording this. And one of the members said that she had sex the day she came home after having a C-section with her first baby, because she had so many emotions and she didn't really know what was happening, and she just wanted to do something that felt normal. And she said she immediately regretted it. There were other people that said they had sex right after having something like this done too. So you would think like, oh my God, I just feel like I got beat up and like the last thing I feel like doing is that. But there's plenty of people. That's how people have these like Irish twins that end up being like a couple weeks apart.
Yeah.
You know, or like not even a year
Not
apart.
a couple weeks apart, but
Well,
yeah,
like a
less than
couple
year
weeks
apart.
between pregnancy intervals, I should say. So, yeah, that's how that happens, because it happens all the time. I'm sure the one that happened previous to that was probably because of sex too. And
God.
it is like a long time to say to wait 8 to 12 weeks. It's a long time for some people, you know. They just don't want to wait, and especially if you're
But can't
feeling
you have
better.
sex in other way? Like,
Yeah.
isn't it just not having intercourse? Like, you could have oral or
Yeah, you
do
could
hand stuff.
exactly. Like just exactly. It just is worth it. Even one of the members in the gross room was saying that she did wait the amount of time that she should have, and then she said that her partner felt the sutures like with the head of his penis still. This was after having a hysterectomy.
Oh, wow.
So she said over time, because you know the sutures disintegrate after a while. So she said over time it went away, but even then she said she was very scared, because she's like, if he could still feel it, maybe it's not closed all the way yet. And like the case that we talked about a few weeks ago was the woman. Hers didn't open up from sex. It opened up because she was in a car accident, which
Yeah.
is that's one of the reasons that they tell you that, you know, maybe you shouldn't drive after surgery. Obviously anesthesia complications too, but you don't want to like pop your sutures open if you get in a car accident. So it's just really interesting. But could you imagine like how terrible that was now? So she had to get it done again, and now it's like it keeps ripping open, and you're just making it like more likely to keep happening because it's not healing right, you know?
Yeah. All right, let's wrap up with this Women's Health article about they're calling homemade sex toys, but it's really just finding objects around your house to get off on.
This is a very thorough article. It's just like any person has at least one of these things in their house.
Yeah, so they're basically saying it's a great option for people who are wanting to try new ways of getting off and they want to experiment with objects, and it's cheaper than buying designated sex toys. But I think if you've ever listened to this show before, you can know the dangerous territory people can get into when they start using objects that are not necessarily designated for sex play. But what they're offering in this...
they're giving ideas. They do actually make mention in this article, because it would be completely irresponsible to be like, this is stuff that you should put on your penis or in your vagina. Do not put it in your anus, because you need special sex toys designed with flare bases so you don't have a problem. However, I think you're giving people ideas to use things that they might not even have ever thought of, and people will definitely be sticking it in their ass.
Yeah, because a couple of things they had. So the first thing they mentioned was a massage candle, which I guess it melts into a massage oil. But I feel like...
How's it not burn you? It says it's designed to not get that hot, but like how?
I don't know. So I'm like immediately like, I'm going to be like total negative Nancy on this. Like, I'm like, burns. The next one is a shower head.
That's like an old-fashioned one. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine, I guess. A handheld fan? How?
That just sounds like a clitoris amputation waiting to happen.
That's what I'm saying. Electric toothbrush.
No, that one is fucking gross. Because, like, I have 3 electric toothbrushes in my one bathroom that we all share. I don't want to think about anybody sticking them anywhere on their body, because somebody's going to use somebody else's, right?
Obviously, you're not going to use your own and then put it in your mouth.
Yeah, it's just like there should be a clear, distinct line between things you brush your teeth with and things that you put on your genitals.
Then there's ice. That
Ooh,
could
so erotic.
The most ridiculous to me is sofas or armchairs, like dry
Oh, to
hump
dry
your
hump?
like sofa armchair. I don't know. Like
I
people
like
can
how
do
they
whatever.
had I like how they had socks and they were like, fill the sock with lotion so it could be very experienceable, pleasurable for a man with a penis. Like you're telling this guy to just fill a lotion with lotion up in a sock and jerk off with it. Like it.
Well, they also said wooden spoons and silicone
Oh,
spatulas.
for spanking, and I'm like, or you could just use your hands. Like I guess like.
This is what I'm getting at.
If you want to get a little edgier, use the silicone spatula because it has harder edges.
I think the edgiest of suggestions is the handheld fan and dry humping your chair in your living room. I don't know that. Whatever. Like people can do whatever they want, but I just feel like they explained everything like item by item what you should do and the precautions and everything, but I feel like what you're saying is you're giving people ideas they wouldn't have had before, and there are safe tools designated for this.
They have this whole section on using a cucumber, and again, they advise not to use that in the anus, although I've received several of them working in the laboratory from the anus. But they're saying that you should always put a condom over top of any kind of produce because it could break. It's just...
I just don't
they're
think it's a good...
I think they're lacking in like writing material or something. Just like imagine these people having a meeting, their corporate meeting, like, okay, we're going to write this article. Let's like talk about this. Let's like walk around the house and see what we could use as an item.
I understand maybe everybody doesn't have money to buy a sex toy, but like you also have hands. So like we don't have to be sticking undesignated items in areas where they maybe weren't designed to go because you're just asking for problems.
The fan's weird because it's just like, oh, it just gives you like a breeze, like an erotic breeze. Like, so does an air conditioning vent. I don't know. It was just this article is a little bit of a stretch. I'm pretty sure everybody, but one of them was really weird. The one was a silk tie, like, oh, you want to play around with bondage, and then one of them was a pearl necklace. And they link, this is the funniest part, they link all of these items that you could buy, even though they're supposed to be laying around your house. So if you're going to link an item to buy, why wouldn't you just link a dildo? Okay, whatever. But they put freshwater sterling silver pearl necklace. I'm pretty sure that's going to cost, like an actual real pearl necklace is going to cost way more money than a sex toy. You could get a sex toy on like fucking Temu for $5 probably.
Also, like, they're not homemade. So when I first clicked on this article, I'm thinking it's gonna like teach you how to like take a ceramics class on how to sculpt your own dildo, right? Like,
it's like those 5-minute craft videos.
Oh my god! Don't even get me started. In a way, that's my favorite page ever, but it's so infuriating.
When they like the one that I saw recently was like this girl holding like this big sausage, but I think it was supposed to be like a cell phone holder. That's what she ended up putting. You know, she used like the gypsum stuff and made her hands around this sausage, but she was like making it look like it was going in her throat, like she was like sucking dick, right? And then all of a sudden, like she takes the sausage out and she's like, no, like your cell phone could or your curling iron could fit in there. That wasn't supposed to look like that.
My favorite is when they're like, no earrings, just take these tampons and cut it in half and then use the string as the hook. And you're like, who would walk around with tampons hanging out like earrings?
What about the people that have like platform shoes that cut like a little door into them and they put like money in them? Or I think they put tampons in it once. Like, oh, can't carry a purse when you're going out for the night? Stick your tampon in the platform of your shoe.
Wait, there's another one they do that's my favorite that like, it's like, are your shoes too small? So they'll purposely make the person put their like small toe outside. Then they'll like take a marker and color their toe to match the high heel. Like, so stupid.
It is, but like we keep watching it. It's just like
they're
the meetings I want to be involved in, because I think at first they were doing like actual crafts where you were like, oh cool, you could do that in 5 minutes. And then they were like, wait a second, like now they sit around and they're like, what's the most outrageous shit we can do? It's like kind of creative and really great, and you just watch it. It's a nice distraction from all the craziness that goes on in the world, you know?
They must make so much money. I think when they were doing their legitimate crafts, it was outraging people just because they were stupid. So then they were like, we're just going to fully lean into this. And now
I just saw a similar video today where there was this guy that was teaching like a pottery class to just regular people. And he had this piece of clay that was just the size of like a human penis, like to scale. And he was like stroking it and pulling it. And all they kept zeroing in on the people in the audience that were like, what is happening right now? This looks like a giant dick. This guy's like jerking right now in front of us. And he did all this stuff with it. And it ended up being like a handle of a coffee mug, which looked completely normal. But at the end, everybody was like, "Oh, okay, I get it." But there was like a portion of time that it was just very sexual. He was like holding it up to his mouth and like chugging it toward like it was so ridiculous.
No, there's this guy that makes these like crazy chocolate sculptures in Vegas. I don't know if you've ever seen his stuff before, but he did one recently where he was making a heart, but he did the halves separate. And it was like bubbled out in a way that when he put them together and took like liquid chocolate to seal them, it looked like he was like smearing poop in a butt crack. It was like so weird.
Oh, I know who that guy is. I think I know who that guy is.
All right, well, let's move on to the questions of the day. Every Friday at the Mother Knows Death Instagram account, you guys can head over to our story and ask us whatever questions you want. First, what is the real reason piercings are not allowed at the hospital?
I don't know if there's a real reason. I think that a lot of it is just like they don't like the way that it looks. They think it's not professional.
Well, I don't know if this person means for like employees or for patients, because for a lot of procedures, you have to take them out.
Oh, if for procedure, then there's 100% a reason because, and this actually happened with me because when I had Lillian at the hospital, I have this piercing I have in my face right now. And after I had her, so they made me take it out. And of course I don't want to take it out because I'm thinking like after I have a baby, the last thing I'm going to be thinking about is putting a piercing back in. And like, you can't keep it out that long or it'll close up. So I just was like, I don't want to take it out. The thing is that if you have to get an emergency procedure, if you have to get intubated, for me, I had some really, really bad headache after I had the baby and I had to get an emergency MRI, which you can't have metal in your face. They just want it to be like, especially when you have a baby, like shit could go bad. They might have to intubate you or something, and they want your face to be clear and make sure you're ready to go for surgery on the rare chance that you need it. So for procedures, that's why. As far as working there, it's just I mean if you have a piercing on your face, it's essentially the same as having your ears pierced, and I don't think they make you take out your earrings. I had a piercing on my face working in the hospital. They never gave me shit about that because believe me, they gave me so much shit about my tattoos, so they've noticed. I don't know. I feel like on the floor, if they don't want you having a piercing, it's for appearances. It's not for hygiene.
All right, if somebody has a late-term spontaneous abortion, will they automatically do a fetal autopsy?
No, anytime a fetal autopsy is done, it's when, well, most times, unless there's some kind of trauma involved or violence, if it's a natural cause, the only way an autopsy is getting done is if the mom wants it. I personally, I don't know. I go back and forth, like what I would do in that situation. I never want anybody that I love to ever get an autopsy because it's so invasive and gruesome. But at the same time, if you're a mom that's trying to have babies and then you have this terrible thing that happens during the pregnancy, you might want to find out why, because there's a chance that it could happen again. Because obviously, if you have a stillborn, there's a higher chance of you having a stillborn. So, in that case, I might want to further investigate. There are a lot of things that could be done, genetics and things that they don't have to physically do very much of an invasive procedure. I would say most of the time in those cases, if everything was fine to the very end, it's usually a placental issue. So sometimes we could just look at the placenta and be like, yeah, that's what happened. That's why the baby died. So there are things that we could do if the parents aren't comfortable with it, but that's totally up to the parents.
All right, last question. What is my favorite novel or author, and do I have a Goodreads? I do have a Goodreads, but it is on private because I'm embarrassed by my reading selection most of the time.
I don't think you should be embarrassed because I think our listeners like what do you want to, you just want to have like Of Mice and Men, like you have to have all these intellectual
I don't want
Don't-
everybody seeing all the smut books I read and judging for my selection.
We're already judging you.
I know you are, but yeah, I'm
Don't
gonna
be
keep.
embarrassed. I think our listeners would want to just do it. You're gonna, because there's this whole entire thing that you have to act like you're this well-educated reader all the time, and just like you could break the stereotype by making your Goodreads public.
Well, I'm not gonna make it public yet. Maybe it's something I could mentally work towards, but I'll tell you some books I read lately that I liked. While that's loading up, an author I really like right now of the smut variety is Stephanie Archer. I just think her books are easy to read and they're like non-conflict, which sometimes I just want like, to read a Hallmark movie level type of thing. Books I really like that I would consider in my favorites. I really like this book my English teacher in 12th grade made us read called Swimming. I thought that was a really good book. It's kind of like about family betrayal, and I thought it had really good, just a lot of drama, but it's like really makes you think a lot about family dynamic. And then, not to be a basic book bitch, but like I really liked Where the Crawdads Sing, but like everybody likes that book. It was on the New York Times bestseller list for a really long time. Right now I'm reading a book called Nora Goes Off Script that I don't really like that much. It's fine. I don't think it's like the best book I've ever read, but I think it's just an easy read. What other books? Oh, I just finished for my book club this book called First Time Caller, and that was just on the New York Times bestseller list. It just came out a couple weeks ago, and I thought that book was really great, so I'd recommend that right now.
What was it about?
It was about this guy that worked at a radio station, and he like had a show that was a romance hotline, and then this woman's daughter calls in, and it reminded me of Us in a way, because it was this 29-year-old girl that had a 12-year-old daughter, and her daughter called into the romance hotline and was like, "Help my mom out. She's never had a boyfriend, and I'm worried about her."
Oh my God, this is the plot for Sleepless in Seattle.
Basically, but I liked it. It was very easy to read and it was cute, and that's what I would recommend right now. But I don't know, maybe I'll work my way into making my records public, but for now, I don't want everybody seeing the weird shit I choose to read. 'Cause I go between like romance books, horrible murder novels, finance guides, like nobody really is gonna care what I read,
They obviously care if they're asking you.
Maybe. I was surprised this question came in, honestly, but maybe once in a while I'll give you guys some updates and my suggestions on what I'm reading, and then we could go from there. And then I'll see if I'm getting good feedback at that point. Maybe I'll release the tapes.
Thank you for listening to Mother Knows Death. As a reminder, my training is as a pathologist assistant. I have a master's level education and specialize in anatomy and pathology education. I am not a doctor, and I have not diagnosed or treated anyone, dead or alive, without the assistance of a licensed medical doctor. This show, my website, and social media accounts are designed to educate and inform people based on my experience working in pathology, so they can make healthier decisions regarding their life and well-being. Always remember that science is changing every day, and the opinions expressed in this episode are based on my knowledge of those subjects at the time of publication. If you are having a medical problem, have a medical question, or are having a medical emergency, please contact your physician or visit an urgent care center, emergency room, or hospital. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Mother Knows Death on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks.